Hello, and welcome back to Essential Mental Healing, where I am your host, Candace Fleming. Joining me today is Janet Hale and Tima Tucker. Today we will discuss trauma and ways to help you heal your trauma. Hi, Tima. Hi, Janet. How are you guys doing?
Good. Hi, Candace. How are you?
Good afternoon. Hello.
Yes.
I'm doing well. I am really excited to dig into this topic today. I think it is a very relevant topic that people have had to suppress and not talk about, not deal with. So I'm excited about that. The weekend's going well. Yeah, everything is going pretty good for me today. How about you, Tima? How's your weekend going?
Awesome. A little bit of confusion with the flop back of the hour. But other than that, it's been a good weekend. Pretty balanced. Thank you for asking, Miss Janet.
Yeah.
Yours.
My weekend was great. There were some ups and downs. I went out to an event and was like, why am I here kind of thing. Like, okay. So I'm here. So what I'm going to do is make the best of it. And then I'm going to go home and relax. And that's what I did.
I like it.
And that's what I've been doing, just relaxing.
You know, I almost showed up an hour early today because my clock in my kitchen is still, it wasn't set back. The clock on the wall wasn't set back. And I was rushing. I was giving my daughter a bath. I'm like, come on, I got to hurry up. And I looked at the computer and said, it looks like I got more time than I thought.
Yes.
So that gave me an extra hour of prep time, which was wonderful and needed and great. So we'll jump straight in and talking about trauma. So what is trauma? Webster Dictionary gives us the definition of a very difficult or unpleasant experience that causes someone to have mental or emotional problems, usually for a long time. So this is our dictionary definition. What, in layman's terms, what would you guys describe as trauma? I look at trauma as something, maybe some abuse. It can be sexual abuse, mental abuse. It can be, I recently felt that another form of trauma that I don't think people look into as much as separation and divorce. The trauma that happens from that, or the trauma from infidelity, different things that seem so, that happened, get over it. But it's really a lasting trauma that can happen and stick with you. How about you guys? What do you think? What is your definition of trauma or forms of trauma?
Well, for me, in layman's terms, as you say, this is Janet speaking, but I think that trauma is something that affects us in ways that are not positive, events that have affected us in the negative way. And I think it's a generational thing. I think we're really learning to come out of the generational secrecy that it's, so grandpa did A, B, and C. We're not going to talk about it. But nobody can spend the night at grandpa's house. Why not? Because we're not talking about the trauma. And so I think we're living in an age where we're breaking the chains of holding on to and carrying the trauma to the next generation of people. So I think it's a good point that you brought up, Candace, about the trauma of even a divorce, of separation. I think those are things to look at, because a lot of times people will think, oh, they're just getting a divorce. That's just that. No, it's more to that divorce than just a divorce. There's a lot of things that come into play when you're talking about these things. We're talking about time spent with one another. We're talking with the children involved. You're talking about children being involved. and parents are thinking about how we're affecting, or should be, I hope so, how we're affecting the children in this. What do we need to do? What's the best way to maneuver this situation? Because it is trauma, period. There's no other way to look at that. That's trauma. Regardless to whose fault it is, if it's anybody's fault, it doesn't matter. It's a traumatic event.
Real fast, I want to jump in on that really fast. There was an example given when I went to church. There were 2 bricks, and the pastor had the bricks cemented together. And he said, this is what happens when you get married. And then he took a hammer and he said, so once you get a divorce, obviously 2 people come together, they're one cemented together. Once you get a divorce, you think, okay, these 2 people are going to separate and be one again. However, the only way to break those 2 bricks or separate the cement, he cracked it in half with a hammer. He hit it at the seam, but the 2 bricks were not 2 whole bricks anymore. They cracked a little. So a piece of one brick was over on one side, a piece of the other brick was over on the other side. So like you say, you've become one. You've intertwined a lot of each other into each other. And so now you have pieces of yourself or that other person with you that you have to try to separate from or deal with and cope with in this individual life. And not everybody is cordial during that time. You may not be able to talk to each other or be with each other during that time. So that's definitely a piece of trauma that happens during that period of your life that you learn to cope with and deal with.
I think I'm glad you brought that up. I didn't know you were going to get deep in this, but the trauma of the divorce and all of that, I know. As the bricks, I like that scenario and knock it over, pieces of you over here, piece of him over there, and all this stuff, or her and her, or him and him, it doesn't matter. Is that when that happens and so many years have been spent with another person, and let's just say one of those persons is deceased. Okay. So the divorces went down. It happened.
Right.
It happened. Recently, the other person passes on.
Right.
What people tend to forget about is that person, although they're divorced, they're also set in their own grieving.
Yes, ma'am. That is true.
They forget that person. They say, well, she was, or he or whoever. And they forget, well, you know what? There is a grieving process for that person as well. Like that person is also traumatized. That person is dealing with some things.
Yes.
And so it is good to open a table to say, let's talk about all of it. See, and this is what I love about this platform. Now we sit here and we talk about it. Let's talk about it. Because for so long, and it's generational, folks didn't talk. We just kind of just went along with it. And then we just carried the trauma to the next generation. And they carried it to the next generation. And we're learning different ways of healing from these different traumas to be able to be open enough and vulnerable enough to deal with different things. Learning to have safe people to talk to. It's really all about navigating your life and navigating how you need to heal, because we're all healing in different ways. We all have different ways of healing.
Yes.
I know for myself, and I'm very pretty open about, trauma, healing, whatever. Like, look, what you want? Let's deal with it. So, and then the reason for that for me is because I always want to grow.
Yes.
I always want Janet to grow. Period. Every day I want to know something different about Janet. Some of it's good. Some of it I don't really want to look at. I'll be like, I don't know. I want to look at that. That part right there, I don't know. But guess what?
I guess that did need some improving.
Like, okay, I need to work on that.